How do I know I can become a homeowner? How do I know when I'm ready for my next investment property? Those are things that are very important. So whether you do anything with us or not, knowing your cash flow, your money coming in, money going out, very, very important to make financial decisions so you don't fall into what we call the 75% bucket. 75% of people, according to CNBC, are winging it. They're guessing when it comes to making financial decisions. That's what messes people up.
Aloha, guys. Welcome to the Deals in Aloha podcast, where we talk to local business owners and entrepreneurs trying to spread the message of financial education, all things mindset. We're super excited today. So if you do find value from this podcast, please follow us on all social media platforms at Kamohai and Tristyn. Let's go.
Let's go. So today we have and are very honored to have special guest Alan Akina. He is the CEO and founder of 101 Financial. Last year, you just launched a new fintech, an all-digital bank for college athletes. You were on KHON2 on the Wake Up Today show for 10 years, hosting the Financial Fitness Report. And we know so many of your students because they're in real estate and they have nothing but amazing things to say about you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that, and heard a lot of great things about you as well from our people. So congratulations to you, your success, phenomenal. Keep doing what you're doing for our people. Much, much needed.
And thank you for that. But I feel like that's why we wanted you on the podcast, because you just said it. It's so needed for our people, and the message and the value. Just every time I see you post on social media or anything that your students share with us, it's like, dude, so much more of our local community needs to know these foundational things and have this little mindset shift that can open up a whole new world of possibility. So how did you get into this space of financial education and financial literacy? Like, take us back to the beginning.
Yes, I think what got me here was my childhood. Growing up here in Hawaii, I grew up between living in Wahiawa and Laie, Kahuku side. I'm in Kahuku in my house today, but I come from a great family, love my family dearly, but we were poor. I mean, quite honestly, we were poor. And I was embarrassed by that when I was going to high school, because I was on free lunch, I had free breakfast. I'd have to stand, and I'm a lot older than you guys, so back then for free lunch, you had to get the token. So I had to stand in line to see the token lady, and if you didn't make it to school early, you're not eating, right? And so, those were tough. We grew up on food stamps, and my parents never really owned a home. We're always moving, living with people, or renting this apartment, this house, in different places here in Hawaii, on Oahu. And I think those challenges growing up really instilled in me this passion, like this desire, like I really wanted to know, like, how money worked. Wasn't that I was trying to be a millionaire, that didn't really cross my mind, but it's like, how does this work, right? There's obviously something we got beautiful properties, beautiful hotels, people come from all over the world to Hawaii to visit, but how do we get to do that stuff, right? And so that motivated me. So I put a lot of time and effort after college into studying money, personal finance, and I got to a point where I felt like I learned enough to be able to help others. So my desire to change my financial life turned into a desire, like, man, I gotta, like you did, I gotta help people. I gotta help my people, my family, my friends, people that are in the struggle like I was. And so my wife and I were living here on the North Shore in a little apartment, and we had $20,000 in savings. And we used that $20,000 to start 101 Financial. And this was in late 2002. So probably before you were born, Tristyn, that this is. So this is a long 21 years ago is when we started with $20,000. And we just started helping one family at a time, teaching them the basics of finance, the stuff that we never learned in school that we should have. How to budget, how to build credit, how to get out of debt quickly, how to save interest, how to buy your first property, right? And then become an investor, right? Those are the basic things that we should have learned that I took my experience and started this company. It started to slowly grow. So, one at a time, one family at a time. And I got to tell you, this is kind of interesting because, and I think this happens a lot of entrepreneurs, or just people in general in Hawaii, is that we don't have a lot of confidence in ourselves. I didn't. When I started like I was the founder and CEO of my own company. I didn't even want to be the CEO of my company. I was trying to hire somebody. Oh man, this is great. We're doing this. I just want to be the behind the scenes and do the biz dev. I'll hire you. You be the front. You be the CEO, right? 'Cause I just had these negative thoughts about myself, right? I dropped out of college at the time. I didn't have a business degree, right? We never really been around money, and so all the negative self-talk just started just coming through me. But here's what happened, right? I slowly I started to believe in myself. I started saying, "Why not me? Why not me? Why can't I do that?" And then once that shifted, this was probably 2 or 3 years into my company. It took that long. Then the belief kicked into action and positive vibes, and then my company grew. So from that point, and by our 7th year in business, we at One Financial had made the Inc. 500 list. So at the time, we were um, the second company from the islands to ever make Inc. 500. So we got to go to the Inc. 500 conference. It was in Washington, D.C. Me and my two other executives from the team, two local boys and myself. We had to go get a black suit and rent the ties to go to the gala. We're calling it the gala. Yeah, like, we went to this whole event, and we represented. Right? We represented Hawaii, and we represented in a way that we built a company that was based on helping people. And and then from there, it's just been a phenomenal ride. So that's kind of the early stages of how we got going, and it's turned into so many other incredible opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. I think that, man, Hawaii definitely needed what you guys created. And I think you saw that there was a definite issue and a problem that needed solving. And I think sometimes that's the beauty of building a business that can facilitate that, right? And so, I mean, there's so much to unpack there. But I want to take it back to kind of the beginning. And first, what do you think it was that caused you to have those kind of negative beliefs or that negative self-talk? Do you think it was because this is a thing I can relate, and I think a lot of local people can relate. Is it something about the environment we grow up in? Is it a cultural thing? What do you kind of attribute that to?
Yeah. Why is it so much harder for local people to think that, yes, we can?
Yeah, I think it's part cultural, our culture growing up, right? It's realizing, and I didn't figure this out till I was in college, like at the end of my college days, but words are powerful, right? The words that we say and the words that we think are very, very powerful. So now, give you an example. Living in Hawaii, we say words that may not be the most positive. Like, oh, I'm from a small island. I live in a small town on the North Shore. Right? Yeah, I never graduated from college. Oh yeah, we no more money, right? Like we say these things, and then as kids when we're growing up, and our parents or grandparents didn't mean it. This. Oh yeah, this is my Kolohe one. Yeah, this is my rascal kid. Oh, this is the troublemaker. So you start saying that over and over. My goodness, it's going to affect you somehow, right? Because words are powerful. So I think it's part of our culture, and I'm not saying anything bad about our culture. I love being native Hawaiian and being from Hawaii and represent. I so prideful, and my daughter's kind of taking that to another level. My daughter's very, very proud to be Hawaiian, and she's representing our people well at Harvard, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But it's just the way that we were raised, and then we start thinking that, we start saying it, and then we pass it on. So we got to use better words. We need to use better words. We need to think different and bigger because that's what the people on the mainland do. they know this stuff and they're teaching their kids early. And imagine if we as a people started doing that with our kids. We can change the generation, right? And I'm seeing that. I'm living proof right now with how that's, these words that I've used and I've learned to overcome. I've changed that narrative for our kids. My wife and I have 7 kids. And we started teaching them and saying words. We weren't the best parents. We're still trying to figure it out. But the things that we did led them to have a different belief in themselves. And now, out of our 7 kids, we have 3 of them in college. Our oldest son goes to BYU. He's going to graduate from the Marriott School of Business, and he plays golf there. Our second oldest son plays basketball for New York University, and he goes to the Stern School of Business, one of the best business schools in the country, majoring in finance. He's an MLK scholar there and lives right on Wall Street. His address is 45 Wall Street. Incredible. Lives right next to. You walk out his door, there's a doorman, and right to the left, the stock exchange, New York City. Amazing. And our third oldest, her name is Kiani, and she is a junior at Harvard. And so I think now that I can look back, I think some of the things we did work, right? As far as changing the mindset of the next generation. Then our fourth son is a junior in high school, but he was a #1 recruit for golf. He got recruited by everybody in the country. He just committed to play golf at BYU, and he'll be there in about a year and a half. But there's something to that. There's something to it. And I see it in my own life, and now I see it in my kids. And then I try to teach that inside of our personal finance classes when we work with people, because I do think it's a big deal.
Oh man, it's such a simple concept, but at the same time, it's so hard to implement into your daily life. You know what I mean? And it's that simple saying of, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely correct. And having children now, we have two little ones, a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. I am more aware of that more so than any time before in my life. That words are so powerful, and what you say almost shapes their behavior, and it shapes how they think about themselves, and it shapes what they think their reality is. And it's the same for adults. We're living proof that I can't imagine if back in 2018, when we decided to go into real estate, if I was like, nah, we can't do that, where we would even be today. You know what I mean? But I was so desperate to change our financial situation that the thought of I can't never even, and it was almost like I was naive. I was almost stupid, like blindly stupid, because I just was so desperate to change our financial situation that I can't wasn't even an option. And I wish that this principle of mindset and emotional well-being and thoughts and all this woo-woo stuff that people basically put it into this category was foundational in like education at a young age. Yep. Yeah, but it starts in the home. You're exactly correct.
Yeah, I think number one, you have to be aware, just exactly what you said. You need to be aware of what's happening in the words, and then once you're aware, now you can fix it. But if you don't know that you're saying it's just part of what you've been doing your whole life, because that's what family has done, then it's a hard cycle to break. But having things like this, right, your podcast, I think this segment's going to influence a lot of people to reconsider the words that they're saying, the words that they're saying to themselves internally, because it does matter.
Yeah. It's so true. Like, you think about it. Oh, well, I only went to Kalaheo, or I only went to Farrington. I can't do those things. Or we only come from Oahu, so you only have like X, Y, and Z that you can do when you grow up. You know what I mean? Or like, these are the only options you have. But what if that's not true? What if I went to this school so I can? Or I'm from this place so I can?
Yeah, you know? I mean, it's reframing. It's reframing the way you see the world. It's perspective. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the reasons why we started doing this podcast, was so we could talk to people like you. And I think so importantly in Hawaii especially, and this is like a personal example for me, I needed somebody that looked like me, that talked like me, that came from this place to show me what was possible, right? And I think sometimes that's it. We're just limited by what we believe or see or grow up in as possible, right? And so I think it's now, I mean, yeah, we strove to like get out of the financial situation we're in, but then it becomes very evident very quickly that there is a kuleana, a responsibility for us to show other people what we did and how we did it. You know what I mean? I think you talked a little bit about your want in your business to help people. I mean, it's foundational. It's what your business was built off of. Have you always been that way? Like, did you grow up like something built in you that wanted to help people? Or was it more organic than that? I mean, I'm trying to figure that out.
I think both. So I grew up very humble family. My grandfather was a fisherman on Maui in Kihei. And then so we named our fourth child Kihei Akina. But he was known to feed the community when they would bring their boats in, the nets, the community would come and clean nets and everybody would take home fish, right? He just was known as a giver. And he passed away when I was one, so I never really got to know him. But then my dad was super humble. I just seen him give everything. We had nothing, and he was giving stuff away, right? And so I think that was part of it. And then another part of it was the organic side. Like I just truly wanted to help people. One of the things was this when I was growing up in my early 20s here. I was very motivated, right? I was hungry. I was this young, local, native Hawaiian guy that wanted to be successful. And I was looking for mentors, like people that could guide me and help me. Not that I was going to ask them for money or take a lot of time. I just, want a little bit of guidance. And, unfortunately, I couldn't really find anybody in my circles or have connections to, right? One of the biggest guys I ever met in my life at that time was your dad, right? He was a great influence on me, the big executive at First Line Bank. And I looked up to him, but trying to find local mentors that were millionaires, multimillionaires that could give me direction wasn't available. Now, I did eventually find, I consider I have 5 mentors. They're all very successful. Some guys are worth over 100 million to tens of millions of dollars. The only downside, they're all from the mainland. It's great, but I couldn't find anybody locally. So I wanted to change that narrative in my dealings on this planet, right? I'm only going to be here for a certain amount of time. How can I impact other people that could be generational? And the best thing I thought was try to help people solve their number one problem, money. And that could be generational in the way that it's set up if we did it through education. And so that's sort of my backstory behind why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Dude, we can relate in so many ways where it's like all of our mentors in real estate and all the education that we've received to know the skill sets of investing that we have now, they're all from the mainland. And that like almost, it is what it is, but at the same time, like it kills us because it's like, why? That shouldn't be a thing, And I think that was another reason why we created Deals in Aloha, because just like he said, it's so much more impactful from hearing and seeing success and knowing that it's possible from another person that's from the same place as you, that has a similar story as you or faces the same struggles as you, where our median household price is $1 million. Like people in the mainland don't even understand what that's like and why it's so hard for home ownership to be achieved. Like, I think we need to team up and we need to have a huge like educational seminar or whatever it is where like people can come and learn the basics and they don't have to go to the mainland to get it. That's like a big goal of mine.
And I've always wanted to do that because our people, we're a small community, right? So our population size is smaller. So there's not as many out there in the public eye, right? On TV, right? Social media, where you can actually show people that others that are like us, that look like us, that are out there. There's not a lot of it. Okay? So we're seeing other people out there because their population is bigger. Now, I'm sure we're just as successful as other groups in some ways, but we're a little smaller in that sense as far as our population. But if we band together and we create those opportunities to show people like, look, this is what we've done, right? This is how I built this company. And you can do the same thing, you struggle. And then people can, can relate to our struggles because we grew up here, right? And so I think, if you guys ever decide to do something, I'd be happy to help out and be a part of it because it's just needed.
I agree. It's coming. It's on the goal board, and it's definitely a huge passion. I think it's just alignment with the right people and the right relationships, but the community needs it. But you mentioned mentors and you mentioned people that you look up to. Who are those people for you, and what drew you to those?
Yeah, how'd you find them?
Yeah, how can people find mentors?
Yeah, so one of my first ones is he became a good friend of mine. He's part of the Marriott family. He married Richard Marriott's daughter, and I met him through a company. We were the same religion, so a couple guys introduced us, and then just over time we got to know each other, and then kind of helped each other out over years. The relationship took years to develop, but now we're buddies. We call each other for anything. We text messages, Christmas cards, calls. Whenever we're in town, if he's in Hawaii or Utah, he'll call me, and I'm in San Diego, I'll call him, and so he's been great because very successful, and then his family, his in-laws, billionaires, right? So that's been helpful to me. Another friend I met through church. They moved from the mainland. They moved from Arizona. They moved to the North Shore, and they ended up buying like 3 beach houses. Right. This friend of mine, he owns steel manufacturing plants. So they manufacture steel all over the country. Huge business, right? And just through relationships, I was just on a Zoom with him 3 weeks ago, showing him my investor deck, and he said, "Well, Alan, you should do this with the financial." So his stuff helped me to adjust my pitch deck. And this morning, I had an investor pitch at 8 o'clock this morning with one of the largest VC firms in sports tech, and I added these slides, and it was just phenomenal, right? So he took an hour of his time this past little bit to help me out, and gosh, it paid off. I mean, it was a home run this morning. So those guys, just through relationships, right? Just people you meet, and just being good to other people, and not necessarily just interested in their money, but just curious about how they did it. And then what I found is a great way to build relationships is just do more for them than they do for you. Like, give them way more help and support than they ever give you, without expecting anything. Because then one day you need a call, like, hey, I call my buddies, hey, I need you to review my pitch deck with me. No problem, Alan. Right? We did all these things. So that's just, sometimes if we don't know, we try to take advantage and ask too much early on. Then you blow the relationship before you even give it a chance to develop.
Yeah, so true. Lead with value from the beginning and expect nothing in return. And majority of the time it's reciprocated.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think too, it's one of those things that we talk about all the time, mentorships and being around the people that are doing what you are looking to do, or are successful in your eyes, right? Success leaves clues. We hear that all the time. It's just important to be surrounded by those types of people. And I think sometimes it's scary, especially when you're just getting started. But if you do lead with value, right, and you're adding more than you're expecting back, most times there's a lot of people out there that are willing to lend that hand. I mean, you're looking at 3 of us right here on screen. You know what I mean? And I know it can be intimidating, but that's part of it too, right? We have to learn how to become uncomfortable. I think our society today doesn't want to be uncomfortable. We want to be very comfortable and safe and not take risks. But that's a whole nother conversation we can get into. My question to you right now is more a technical one about one-on-one financial. Say we have a local family here that's like, oh my gosh, this is resonating with me. This is me right now. I am that person that's striving to be better. how can 101 Financial help that person, or what is the first kind of steps to start to break that mold?
Yeah, great question. So the start is being self-aware. Like, okay, look, I need help. If I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm gonna get nowhere, right? And here's our philosophy at 101 Financial. You're gonna use money every day for the rest of your life. So doesn't it pay to try to learn as much as you can or as early as you can in life so you set yourself up? So it's all about making less mistakes, having more wins, little wins than losses. And those little wins add up and they compound. But if we do nothing, the little losses add up and compound just as much. So our whole philosophy is like, if you're wanting to make a change in your financial life, learn about money. How do I set a budget? How do I do cash flow projection, right? That's one thing. For all of our students, we build them a 12-month financial roadmap so they can scroll on our app. They can see for the next year, every day that something is happening in their financial life, whether it's a payment, a debt payment, an expense, an income, and then we show them their cash flow. Every month we break out their cash flow. That to me is knowing your starting line, your financial starting line, your numbers, so you can make better decisions. Because how do people know if they can go on the next vacation? I'm going to go to Alaska on a cruise. It's going to cost 10 grand. Well, how do I know you can afford it if you don't know your cash flow, you don't know your numbers, right? How do I know I can become a homeowner? How do I know when I'm ready for my next investment property? Those are things that are very important. So whether you do anything with us or not, knowing your cash flow, your money coming in, money going out, very, very important to make financial decisions so you don't fall into what we call the 75% bucket. 75% of people, according to CNBC, are winging it. They're guessing when it comes to making financial decisions. That's what messes people up. So for us, we have a beginner's course that works on cash flow projections and credit, which is the foundation. It's $199. It's a one-time payment. We include your spouse for free, and you get private coaching. You get access to our app and all the videos. It's probably one of the best deals out there. And if they email me, they can just email me and I'll forward them over to our people that can help. But my email is really Alan, ALAN, at 101financial.com. We'll take care of them. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way.
It's so true. If you have no idea what your finances even look like, how can you make informed decisions to get you out of or achieve whatever you're trying to achieve? And it's true because majority of, I don't know the statistic, but I know that majority of people live paycheck to paychecks and have no savings. You know what I mean? And we were those people. we were entrepreneurs. We were business owners. He ran his own retail company. I owned and operated a 501c3, and we were struggling living paycheck to paycheck. But it wasn't until we, invested in more education and started understanding how we could actually grow money passively and all these other things, that just a little flip of a lens just opened up a whole new world of opportunity. And I feel like that's the one thing that people need more access to. But in our culture, and I just think in the world, money isn't talked about. It's almost taboo. Or if you do talk about your financial situation, you're high muck amuck, or your what is the word I'm looking for? But it's like people look at you differently when you start to talk about money. And what are your thoughts about that?
I think that's the problem in our culture, our community, right? Growing up, you never talked about, oh, Dad, how much you make?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I make a couple cracks is what I make, right? That's it. You want a couple? You don't talk about money, right? And like, oh yeah, how much is this or how much is this house? Don't worry about it, right? Just you're here, right? So, gosh, again, hearing that as a kid growing up, from the time you're 5 to 10 to 15, you already started to develop these negative thoughts about money. So I just think, everybody listening here should reconsider how we talk to people, especially our family and our kids, about money. Be open. You don't have to tell them everything, but discuss it. Like I talk to my kids about, the deals that I'm doing, my investments, and as they were growing up, I even put them in the deals. I think I've done probably 27 to 30 flips. Right? We built houses and flipped them, remodeled, flipped them. I would put their money in. It was like $400. I'm like, hey, your money is going to go buy the paint, right? Okay, your money, you're buying all these light fixtures. And then to give them their check back was like the greatest thing. My son, Kalika, he's now at Stern, the Stern School of Business in New York. He got his first check back. He looked at his check. His eyes just got so big. And he's like, wow, I can buy more gumballs, right? He's like 6 years old and he wants to buy gumballs, right? So I taught them that stuff. I try to instill in them as best as I could, knowing what I knew then. Now a little different, but we tried our best. And don't be afraid to talk to your kids about money because they know they're smart and they're gonna learn it. They're gonna learn it from somebody and someplace. Might as well be you.
Yeah, I love that. I can relate in many ways. I think especially with my father who grew up. My dad actually grew up very, very, very poor, right? Like he had 11 brothers and sisters. You probably heard his story, but in a 900 square foot, 1-bedroom house in Kailua, right? And he was out recycling cans at like 5, 6, 7 years old just to get food to eat, right? And he was in an environment that didn't foster abundance or success or had anybody to look to really, but there was something in him that just he had that drive, the drive that you talked about. It's that same drive, that yearning for more, and he built his way up to where he was today. But one of the things he did instill in us was that, yes, we talk about money, right? We talk about investments. We understand that kind of thing. So for me growing up, I had a leg up, you know what I mean? Like I already understood a lot of it, and it's just so important that you can be that one person that changes the trajectory of your entire generations to come, right? And who wouldn't want to be that person? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I said that last night. I was speaking in Kapolei last night when I flew in, and I said it just takes one person from your family to make the decision that says enough is enough. I'm changing the course of our family's financial future with me putting the stake in the ground and saying, I'm stopping it right now and taking the time to learn and take action. It could be scary for some, but what's even more scary is doing nothing and just living out life struggling. That's even more scary to me. So, yeah, I really appreciate your words. And again, big shout out to your dad. Huge inspiration. I respect him.
We're gonna talk about. I'll tell him that we had this today. He'll be super stoked. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So let's get into like more business side for 101 Financial. What has been like the biggest struggle for you in growing that company?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have had 20 plus years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what has been something that you've had to overcome or the biggest struggle kind of growing that?
I think it's exactly what we were just speaking about. People don't like to talk about money. So it's really hard to bring that subject up. And now we're teaching them. And so when we go to teach them, we need to know their current financial situation. So it's really hard for people to open up and say, well, here's my debt. Here's my credit. It's very embarrassing. So the actual business, that's why it's harder to scale a financial education company because of that natural barrier to opening up about personal finance, right? It's different than the investing side, right? Investing is, hey, let's go make money. But personal finance and finance is, hey, let's go fix what we don't know, and we got to start here. So I think that's been a struggle. We've had to learn to overcome and adapt to that, and we have. And I think having a great team, I have some incredible people at 101 Financial that all come from the same place that I do, the same heart. Right? We're here to help people first, and then business is second. Right? And so that really is the key to lasting 21 years. I mean, to be in business for 21 years, that's really difficult. And we've been through a couple different economic cycles now. We've been around that long, so
Yep.
I'm very proud of what we've done and continue to do.
What's the most common thing you see of people coming to 101 Financial for help? Is it debt? Is it wanting to invest? Is it wanting to buy a house? Like, what's the most common thing that you come across with local people coming into 101 Financial?
Yeah, so everybody wants to invest. Everybody wants to, own real estate. They want to, invest for the retirement and do these different things. But that first step of your budget, your projections, and then once we get those numbers in place, our next objective is, hey, let's get you out of debt or knock down that debt. You don't have to pay it off all the way, but let's get it under control, because that, to me, in my humble opinion, is the number one deterrent from people building wealth, is the debt, because they spend the majority of their income on debt service, on interest costs, and it's significant that it just takes them away from the ability to do what you do. But if their debt was down, they paid it off, paid it down. Now they can open up and do all these other wonderful things.
Yep.
What's the biggest tip, without giving away all of your secrets, of tackling debt? Like, what is something somebody could leave this podcast with and like implement to help them get one step closer to being out of debt?
Yeah. So first thing is get to positive cash flow, right? So I always tell people, look, analyze your current situation. Get a sheet of paper, right? Just get a sheet of paper and write down all of your income for the month, all your income sources, then write down all of your living expenses. So that's fixed and variable expenses. And then lastly, your monthly debt payments. Just those three numbers: income, expenses, and debt payments. And then we want to see on paper what bucket you fall into. Am I positive cash flow? Am I making more than I spend? Am I breaking even? Or am I negative cash flow? That's the first place you got to start, right? The objective is to get the positive cash flow. Obviously, we want to get there as soon as we can. If we're not at positive cash flow, we got to go look at the budget and see where we can cut back or make more money, and then get the positive. Now, once we're there, now we can strategically attack debt, right? And there's several methods. There's the debt snowball, debt avalanche, and we use those two things. And we use debt checking accounts at 101 Financial to suppress the balance on people's debt to save them interest. So we combine all three of those: debt avalanche, so paying off the highest interest first, or debt snowball, paying off the smallest balance, and then rolling that in. And then we use debt checking accounts to help people take the power of their paycheck, right? The power of their paycheck is sitting in a checking account, making them 0% interest. And we could take their paycheck and put it against their debt, suppress the balance for a day, a week, a month, and save them way more interest than they would make in a checking account. So we use a combination of debt avalanche, debt snowball, debt checking accounts to accelerate the debt pay down. And typically we can have people out of debt completely in about 7 to 9 years, including their home, which frees up equity to go invest in more deals. And that's how they can continue to do more deals. And then once they get it, then it just starts to take off. You just got to get the first one.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so many more questions, but I know that if you want to learn more about that, you need to hit up 101 Financial and start changing your life with all that debt avalanche.
I mean, all of this is like so needed, and like there's so much value in just what you just said. I think it's very important for people, especially like right now, is I think a lot of people think that they need to do something else before they can do that. Like they don't, in their current situation right now, that won't apply to me. I don't make enough money for that. What would you say to those people?
To that person,
yeah. Yeah, the secret to the financial success is not really rocket science. It's super simple. In fact, I just posted on my Instagram yesterday. I was speaking in Waikiki at our company event last weekend, and I talked about the fundamentals. And I said, I played college basketball, and every day, before every practice, before every game, we would start with right hand layups and left hand layups. I did that from when I was in little league basketball, high school basketball, college basketball, I never made it to the NBA, but I look at the NBA, I watch the game. They start out every game, right hand layup, left hand layup. It's doing the same thing over. And I was listening to Kobe Bryant. I love Kobe, watching all of his old videos, but he's like, it's just working on the fundamentals every day for years and doing the same thing over and over again. So people get bored because they think they should be doing something else, or they try to skip steps. You can't skip steps. In success, you can't skip steps. It's about doing the fundamentals every day consistently. And I told this story. I recapped the story last weekend of this family that I've been working with on Maui, the Inoes, for 20 years now. The dad works at the electric utility company there. The mom was a hairdresser. They just followed the basics, and they give us a timeline report last weekend. They now have 10 houses. Took them 17 years to get there. They were able to retire. Their daughters have a couple houses each, 2 or 3 houses each on Maui, and it's boring. It's just doing the same thing over and over again, over and over again. But when you look back 10, 20 years later, like, whoa, look at what I've done. That's what it is. It's not something like, whoa, right? Wow, look at this, right? That's why I love the book, The Millionaire Next Door. It's just regular people doing simple things over and over again.
My dad has mentioned that book so many times in my life, I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
You need to read it, Tristyn. There's a quote there's a quote in there that I love from the book about guys in Texas. They say most fake millionaires have big hats, no cattle.
Yeah.
Right? Big hat, no cattle, right? Fancy hat, but no assets, right? That's what most people do.
But those boring, basic principles that they just repetitively did year over year broke a generational curse for the family before them, and created generational wealth for years and years and years and years to come. And so I kind of want to get into, because you mentioned that they all have real estate. What is the power of real estate, and why is owning a home one of the basics of wealth for families?
Yeah, when people ask me like, Alan, what should I do? Like, what should I tell my kids? Or if I was to go back and tell my 20-year-old self something, what would I tell? I tell myself, buy a house as early as possible, right? As early as I can. Get my financial life in order, meaning my credit and my cash flow good early on in my life, so I could buy my first house. Right? Because real estate, as you know, there's so many benefits, right? First off, being a homeowner, it's a forced savings for you, right? You got to pay that, right? Renting is going to get you nowhere. Just money's just gone, right? You're building up that equity, you're paying down your debt, so you're creating availability. And so that availability could be leveraged in a very smart way to accelerate your investing activities in the future. But if you don't get that first house, then it's gonna be a slow roll, right? And then real estate has the ability to produce cash flow, tremendous cash flow. I have all different kinds of real estate, so I kind of diversified my portfolio. I did all those flips. I have Section 8. I have vacation rental, office. Now there's a resort thing that we're doing on the mainland, and I try to diversify it and kind of like stocks, right? In your stock portfolio, diversify large cap, small cap, international bonds. I try to do that as my portfolio is growing, and I teach people to do the same thing. So get into real estate early as you can, pay it off, then you can smartly leverage it to acquire more assets at an accelerated pace, because we call that the velocity of money, where you get your money moving, right? The velocity of money creates momentum, right? And once you have financial momentum's real, just like in sports, it's real. You've seen it at the Super Bowl, right? Kansas City got momentum. I mean, the 49ers had it early and it looked pretty bleak, but things can change. The mental side of things changed at halftime, and then Kansas City came out and caught them up, and then that the momentum's real. So you can have financial momentum and start to create wealth faster through velocity, but it's doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then every once in a while, a great opportunity will pop up, like for you guys, right? Opportunities for you to be on the national stage because you were doing the same thing over. What I was doing one-on-one, I was doing the same thing over and over and over. Then KHON came. 10 years, right? Doing the same thing over and over again. Then a book came, a best-selling book came, right? And then opportunity to open up on the mainland, and doing the same thing over and over again allowed me to start a new company, a all digital bank for college athletes, right? It's because I did the same thing over and I started to learn. And then, I mean, we have our own bank. I got,
That's so cool. We have to talk about that.
A credit builder card for college kids, right? Because my kids are going through that, and I saw problems. Now, how do I fix that for them, right? Now it turned into this huge opportunity, right? That can just, this thing could absolutely explode. So, but that came because I just kept doing the same thing over and over again. And then boom, you get a pop. You got singles, triple, single, home run, single, double. But people quit because they're tired of the single. Oh, I got on base because I walked at base, or I just had a bunt. But you're on base. Don't stop. Keep going. Don't quit. Stay focused.
It's that whole concept of I'd rather be in the game than sitting on the sidelines, right?
Absolutely. I tell my kids this all the time. Look, there's several ways you can go to the game. One, you can buy a ticket and sit your butt in the bleachers and watch. Number two, you could be on the team and sit on the bench and watch. Or number three, you could work your butt off and you can be on the field playing and watching the game up close and personal. Which one do you want? And all that is a matter of work. How much do you want to work to get those three different levels? It's not complicated.
At all.
I love that.
Okay, so before we talk about your banking for college kids, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Crazy, yeah.
I want to talk about the very controversial statement that we discussed previously and got a lot of feedback, which was this priced out of paradise notion that, and it's very real. It's very expensive to live here. And we hate that statement because we know that it doesn't have to be. And I think that you share the same viewpoint as us. And so what would you say to people about being priced out of paradise?
Yeah, I say two things. Number one, it's real, but it doesn't have to be real to you. It's mindset, right? It's like mindset. Okay, well, if you accept that as reality, that's going to be your reality. But if you say, you know what, that's just one hurdle, then fine. What do we need to do to overcome that? Right? It's like I tell people all the time, look, the one thing I can guarantee you is you're going to run into obstacles, and you're going to have you might have obstacles every day, every month, or just one a year, right? But you have to come into the game knowing how you're going to attack those obstacles. So the way I say it is, look, you come across an obstacle like price out of paradise, okay, look at that obstacle and figure out, is there a way around it? Just take the easy way around it. Okay, there's no way around it. All right, can I go over it? Okay, well, I can't go over it. Then the last option is, okay, how do I go right through it? I'm going to smash through it and do whatever I got to do. So we're obviously not going to change the price point of a house in Hawaii. That's going to be very difficult to do. That's market, big market. So how can we as an individual or a family take care of our personal economy, not the world economy, not the state economy, the national economy, but our personal economy, to participate in the market, in the game? Once you start thinking like this, right, you start feeding yourself, and it's hard at the beginning, but you start to feed yourself all these positive things. That's why it's important to listen to podcasts like this to uplift you. It's important to surround yourself with positive people, because you will end up being, like Brian Tracy said, you're going to average the top 5 people you hang out with as far as income is concerned. So be aware of that. Now, let's go participate. Let's go figure out a way. Now, if you got to work harder and take on more hours, you got to start a side hustle, you got to cut back on stuff for now, do it. You just got to do it. There's no way around that. I bought my first condo, 758 square feet here in Kahuku. And it was little. There were 7 of us in there, my wife, and we ended up having 5 kids. It was tight. Right? And I was feeling pressure from everybody. The market was booming. Everybody's buying a house. My mother-in-law was like, oh, Leanne needs a new kitchen. She needs a new house. We need a place for everything. And I totally got it. But I paid that house off in just over 2 years, and I was quietly acquiring other properties. I was buying more properties, more rentals, and just grinding it out, living in this small unit. and working my butt off. I was going to bed at 1, 2 in the morning. I was coming home. All the lights are off. I'm coming home at midnight, 1 o'clock. Everybody else is sleeping. I'm grinding, right? And I did that for years, 10 years. And then later, I was able to buy this lot. I bought a 17-acre lot here in Kahuku, and I built a house on it. It's the only house on this lot. It's an old plantation style home that looked like the home that my parents used to rent for $50 a month in Waihiwa back in the day. Green, white trim, red roof. I took a picture and posted on my Instagram. I don't know how that came, but I drove by it. The old house, and then put it into my new house. Now this new house is much bigger, and it's on a huge piece of land. But we grinded for years. While everybody else was tempted buying new cars, buying bigger houses, having bigger mortgages, we stayed focused on the task at hand. And it's just simple stuff. And then the pop. Oh, that's it. It is what it is. So and people may say, well, Alan, you're crazy. How am I going to do that? If there's a will, there's a way. And when you're committed to it mentally, your creative mind starts to open up. You start to find other ways to do this because you're open to you're in a positive state as opposed to a negative state. Does that make sense?
No. It's perfect.
Absolutely. You're speaking our language, but it goes back to how we first started the podcast of the words that you're telling yourself matter. You know what I mean? If there's a will, there's a way. If you believe that you can do this and stay and thrive in Hawaii, then you absolutely can.
Yeah, my kids, I teach my kids this thing. My daughter, she's 8. So I think you have an 8-year-old son or
We have a
7-year-old,
daughter.
7-year-old daughter.
7-year-old daughter. Okay, so they would probably get along. So I was like, okay, her nickname's Babby. I said, Babby, how many times are things created? She said, things are created twice. First in your mind, then in reality. Right? So she's seeing it. And then I go, what are the 3 keys to success? See it, believe it, achieve it. And then we start singing it. See it, believe it, achieve it. Okay, louder, see it, believe it, achieve it. Okay, Babby, what is see it? See it means you have to imagine. Okay, then when you imagine, then you start to believe it. When you start to believe it, you have a greater chance of achieving it, right? So those are fun things that we do with the kids, my wife and I. And
love that.
I love that.
Yeah,
so
that's
much.
so cool.
I'm going to put that on her wall.
Yeah.
My daughter's very theatrical. She's very creative, so she would make her own song and add on to that, I'm sure.
we'll have to get them together, man.
Yeah, we will. We
I
should.
would love
we
that.
Totally should.
I would love that.
So let's talk about this new venture that you had just started.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, last year. Can you talk a little bit about it, where it came from, what it is?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to start a bank just because, I've been in the game for a while. But banking, as your dad would know, is very difficult. It's a very tough business to get into. But right around the pandemic time, when the pandemic hit, I wasn't traveling as much, so I had time to focus on it. And there was a thing that came from the UK and then started to infiltrate into the US called open banking. And fintech, started to rapidly grow. So I started connecting with people in the industry and going to different things, calls, Zooms, a lot to learn as much as I can. So I started to put the pieces together. And then that's when, during the pandemic, my kids were going to college. And I was watching, when my kids were going to college, I was watching 2 things. That these are major universities, right? BYU, New York University, Harvard. And there were 2 things that I was looking at. Number one is, how do I get my kids their own card so they don't use my card, right? I want them to use their own card, build their own credit value. Number 2 was, how are they handling per diems? So when you're playing sports and you're traveling, the coaches give you travel per diem. That might be $40 a day, depending on what city. And they're using cash. I just could not believe it. So I started calling my friends that were coaches, athletic directors, other players. Like, hey, how do you guys do per diem at Duke? How do you do this over here? This, and like, come to find out, the majority of schools were still using cash. So again, my brain was, okay, how do I fix this problem for my kids, right? And so I started working on a bank for college athletes, and we built it. I raised a $2 million pre-seed round. We built the product. I built a really good team. Got Dr. Stamp to come lead our product team, and got some really good guys. And we built this product, built the credit card, built a platform for the universities, and we launched it last year in pilot mode. And now, after the testing period, the credit scores are coming back into 700, 700 to 741 is our highest credit score in like 6 to 8 months. And then we built this card, worked with MasterCard and some other tech guys to build a card for, this is for BYU. We got a bunch of other people, but really I built, and the company is called Team Up Money. And I built it to solve a problem that I was seeing for myself, for my kids. I built 101 to solve my own problem. That became a big thing. And then now I'm building Team Up, and it's sort of like hand in hand. It's the same thing that I've been doing for adults, working adults. Now I'm bringing the same thing, but using tech to build that for the younger generation, building financial education platforms, building credit cards and dashboards for the athletic departments to use. So I just think it's going to be huge, and it's an extension of what I was already doing with 101, just helping people.
That's so powerful. I mean, it needs to trickle down to start at younger and younger ages. You know what I mean? It sounds like this is just an extension of what you're doing to help younger and younger people. And I love that.
Yeah, 101, we never really helped college kids because they needed a job, really. They needed cash flow and income. I've always wanted to do it. And when my kids got to college, man, I need to accelerate that. And so we've been doing that. And then 101, we've been piloting. We built curriculum. During the pandemic, I did this free program called the ABCs of Money with Uncle Alan. And I did a free thing on social media every week. All the kids were at home, and I was teaching them basic lessons. And so I wrote that whole thing in like 2 weeks, these lessons. And now today, we used the ABCs of Money and our app from 101 with a couple schools. So we're at Pahoa High School in the Big Island. This is our first year there. And then we're in our third year at Baldwin High School in Maui, piloting the financial education program for kids. It's been great. So trying to push the education downwards, as you know, to go help out the younger kids, so there's less problems coming into the working world.
Right.
I love that so much. I feel like we could talk to you for hours.
I know.
Like there's so much that we haven't even talked about. We might have to have you as like a part 2. But where can people find you?
Love to do it.
Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you if they just want to know more about what you have to offer, what 101 Financial is, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so 101financial.com is probably the easiest one, 101financial.com. And then I gave everyone my email earlier if you need. I'm happy to be a resource, but I'm more active on Instagram than anything. So if you go to my Instagram, Alan, ALN_Akina, I post 2 different things. I post family and finances. So you kind of see, what my family is doing. They're at all these different colleges and sports they play, and tracking that. And then I'll mix it in with financial tips. So if that sounds interesting to you, then connect with me on Instagram. And yeah, like I said, happy to be a resource, and very proud of the both of you for what you're doing. I heard so much good things. That's why great things are happening for you, right? I just hope your show takes off, because people need to see, what we can do, and we got talent in Hawaii, right? We're not just the bounty hunter stuff chasing all the criminals around, but we're actually doing business. Right? Nothing wrong with that show. I don't want the dog to come and arrest me. Like, great show, but let's go showcase like Hawaii entrepreneurs and doing deals and the skills that we have here and the beauty of our islands, right? So people can see that. Right? So I'm so proud of you guys, and keep going and leading our people.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you for paving the way, I think, for people like us, the younger generation that are following in your footsteps. And I think this is just the beginning of something
it's
really
just the
cool.
Tip. It's just the tip. I mean,
we're going to do some really cool stuff together. I
think so. I think I've never really met you guys in person, just heard a lot about you. That's why I felt like I'm connected. So I look forward to doing some things with you together as well. That's cool.
I just know of the seeds that you've planted and your heart because of the people that we've met that talk about you. Richie, one of our really good friends. Like I said, Ipole and Kaika, they got us into a mentorship that just taught us so much about what we do every single day. And shout out to Marissa, because she connected us.
Oh, absolutely. Sauce, thank you. She was thinking about it. I was just with Richie last night till like midnight, and then we left our meeting, and then we call each other on the phone, driving back to Kahuku, and he drive back. We're talking because I mean, he started out as a client, and now we're like best friends.
It's so cool.
And he's such a good human being.
Love Richie.
And that's how I know your heart already, is because of the people like once removed from you that we know their heart and we love them. So it's like, it's so cool that we finally get to meet and share your story, because I know you're going to continue to do cool things, and I would love to provide value to your community and just do really cool stuff to help the local community thrive here, because it's possible, people.
100%.
Yeah, guys, it is possible. Don't quit. Just keep focused.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
We
thank you
appreciate
so much, man. I love this. This is awesome.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thank you. Yeah. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Till next time. Aloha.
It's all